Gender Recognition Act. Myth busting. First of all, what is the purpose of the Gender Recognition Act? All it does is issue gender recognition certificates, GRC, through a medicalised process backed up with formal proof. This is the 2004 Act in the UK, and currently there are proposals to reform this Act. The possible proposal to reform the GRA, Gender Recognition Act, is to remove the medical aspect. There's all kinds of myths and lies being rolled out along the conveyor belt of hate from radical feminists and from the media. So it's now time to burst a few bubbles and set some records straight. Getting over a cold, so excuse me. Myth. Anyone can self-ID. Actually, no. The medical side is being removed. The proof side to reach the medical side remains the same. So it's streamlined to make the process easier and quicker for us to get a GRC. So it's called self-ID, i.e. there's no medical side. But the radical femmes have got it into their head that any person can just sign a form. No. What about part-time dressers? A lot of what the radical femmes are up in arms about is these part-time dressers gaining access to various spaces. So what about part-time dressers? They currently cannot get a GRC. That will remain exactly the same. Because of the process involved, because of the proof that you have to supply, there will be no change to that. So not just anybody can self-ID. You cannot be Bob Monday to Friday and Barbara on a weekend. To get a GRC, you have to provide various forms of ID and proof that you are living as Barbara 24/7, not just 14/7. But what about women-only spaces? Yeah. Currently, surgery is not required to get a GRC. Nothing changes there. Were you actually this worried in 2004 when the Gender Recognition Act first came into being? No. So why be so worried now? Right. Women will be at risk from what exactly? You know, trans women have been accessing those spaces for decades, long before the 2004 Act, with no issues. Every case is taken on merit and risk assessed. This applies to women too, you know. Like your rape crisis centres. Every single person that's accepted is accepted after they have been risk assessed, including the women. Next argument of myth: perverts will abuse it. Hey, what? Look, a pervert is not going to go to the lengths needed to gain a GRC just to get access to women-only spaces. Both spaces, each case is risk assessed. A pervert is not going to change their gender 24/7 to gain access. It just won't happen. Another myth, but perverts will use the women's toilets. Oh, wake up and smell the coffee, will you? Anyone, absolutely anyone, can legally enter any public toilet. A piece of paper won't make that any easier, and it won't stop them. There is no legislation, no law in this country that stops anybody from going into any public toilet. None whatsoever. A man, fully clothed as a man, or even stark bollock naked, can walk into a ladies' toilet if he wants to. A woman can walk straight into a men's toilet if they want to. There is no law against it. Alright, it's public indecency laws, so you can't be naked. You can't just stroll naked into a toilet, but that's another issue. So the next one. But prisoners will claim to be women and gain entry to women-only prisons. Right. This is the one grey area where we can work together. The process to gain a GRC needs looking at regarding prisoners. However, each case is again taken on merit, looked at and risk assessed, and prisoners are placed accordingly, including women who are judged to be a danger to other women. Some will unfortunately slip through the net in the same way that parole boards allow some prisoners to be released on parole early when they are still a danger. The system is not infallible, but each case is risk assessed. When the consultation process officially opens on the UK Central Government's GRA, Gender Recognition Act reform proposals, the radical feminists who wish to exclude trans people and wish to abolish the GRA altogether will be out in force. They're already out in force, but they will be out in bigger numbers. They will be filling in those consultation forms, like we did in Scotland, with lies and false information. The media will be full of anti-trans articles, mostly supplied by those radical feminists. What the trans community must do is counter this propaganda. Make sure you reply to the consultations. Make sure you protest peacefully. There's no room for anything other than peaceful protest. No threats of violence, no violence, peaceful protest only. Debate, not hate. Let's win this debate. Let's get the Gender Recognition Act properly reformed. Let's turn around in 5 years' time and gleefully shout out, gloat if you like, along the lines of, see, you panicked and campaigned on false information and spread fear over nothing. We've proven that we are not a threat to you. Radical feminists, you have yet to issue an apology. You've yet to admit you were wrong about us. Let's make sure we can do that in 5 years' time. Just on the subject, some of these radical feminists, Dr. Radfem in particular, persistently misgender trans women. Deliberate. That's a hate crime. For all trans people out there, a hate crime, deliberate and persistent misgendering of a person, is a hate crime. The Criminal Justice Act 2003 covers it. So these radical feminists who refuse to acknowledge our gender and deliberately misgender you, they're treading on thin ice where the law of the land is concerned. Anyone can report a hate crime or incident even if they are not the actual victim. Take screenshots for proof. Report it. Stop Hate UK website has got lots of links on it. So, in the heat of all these debates and arguments with radical feminists, when you are being persistently misgendered, deliberately, don't lose your rag and threaten violence. Screenshot, report. Because they are on very thin ice. Let's win this debate.